Hello, everybody, and welcome to Keeping It Young podcast, conversations about marriage, family, and ministry life. I'm Dave.
And I'm Bethany.
And we are the Youngs. Hey, good morning or afternoon or evening. Or
whenever you listen to
night.
our podcast.
We're so glad you've joined us today, and we're so thankful that we've been able to be a part of your life over these last few weeks and even couple of years now. And it's been such a blessing to serve you. Remember, we're available at keepingityoungpodcast.com on a ton of social media sites and in many other ways. And we have certainly been enjoying these two series on books you should read and why.
Yes.
And we loved talking with you about Sacred Marriage by Gary Thomas and also his book, Loving Him Well. We're going to finish our talk through that book today.
Yes.
And encourage you to get it. And we have a big surprise coming up next week. And we've been so excited and have been anticipating the podcast next week. We actually were able, through our producer, we were able to get in contact with Gary Thomas, and he agreed to do an interview, a special interview with the Keeping It Young podcast. And we've actually completed that interview.
It was excellent.
And you will not want to miss his thoughts, his spirit, just his wisdom. It is going to be an outstanding interview, and you're going to enjoy hearing his words of wisdom.
Absolutely. And you can just, you won't be able to see him. We were able to see him over a Zoom call, but you will be able to hear in his voice his genuine love for God, his genuine care and concern about marriage and just wanting to help people and wanting God to work in his own marriage. It just was a wonderful opportunity and a blessing and an encouragement to be able to listen.
Absolutely. And you'll want to stay tuned to the end, because at the end, you'll want to hear just all the resources they're available.
Right.
Blogs and different websites. And so look forward to that. And then we also want to tell you about a couple of retreats. Bethany has a ladies' retreat coming up that some of you ladies in the Atlanta area, if you're in driving distance.
It's at Solid Rock Baptist Church in Noonan, Georgia. It is coming up March 25th and 26th. It is the Friend to Friend podcast live 2022, and my friend Jessica Smallwood, she's the pastor's wife there, and she is the host of the Friend to Friend podcast, and then she has two friends that help her, and they will be there speaking, but I will be there. Jessica did tell me that seating is limited, so you will want to go to srbcnoonan.com in order to register. That's March 25th and 26th. I don't know if anyone in that area would be able to come and see me there. I do like the Friend to Friend podcast. It's a very, very good resource to listen to. Jessica is just a sweet girl, and the retreat or conference, I guess it really is all about womanhood yielded to our Maker, which is, I think, just a timely thing to address. So.
Absolutely. And I will tell you, ladies, that Bethany's been working on her sessions already.
I have been working and working.
On our morning talks, I've been hearing about some of them, and I think it's going to be outstanding. And then we got a couple of retreats coming up. Of course, we're always promoting our October 13, 14, 15 Pigeon Forge at the Ridge. And if you go to our website, our podcast website page, keepingityoungpodcast.com, there's a sign-up link right on the front cover.
For the Couples Prayer Advance.
We want you to come.
Yes.
We hope you'll come. But we also have a couple coming up just around the corner here in March, March 18 and 19. The First Baptist Church of Eaton, Ohio. Find their website. It has information. The Friday, Saturday event will be held in Westchester, Ohio, which is just on the north side of Cincinnati.
Okay.
And north of the loop there, the 2-something loop, and going up 75.
He's looking at me like, you should know where this is. And I can see the loop on the map because I'm familiar with Ohio, but I have no idea.
She's giving me that look that says, I do not know. But anyway, that's the website. Their website, First Baptist Church, Eaton, Ohio, has information about that. And then the other we want to tell you about is we have two couples retreats at Southland Christian Camp in Ringo, Louisiana. That's near Shreveport, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, several other states there within driving distance.
Wisconsin.
Yes, California.
I think if you live in Wisconsin in April, you're going to want to come south.
Come on down. March 31st through April the 2nd is the first one, and April 7, 8, and 9 is the second one. It'll be the same retreat, same teaching, 2 different retreats. We would love to have you join us, and you can find information at the website for the Southland Christian Camp. And we can't wait to serve with our friends, the Herbsters there. That's always a highlight, just being with them.
Lots of fun.
You will love it.
And you will love Southland Christian Camp. It's a wonderful facility. They do a great job.
Absolutely. Well, let's finish this book, Loving Him Well. This is a book you ought to read, and here's why you ought to read it.
We have done so many episodes just on this book. We've done The Sacred Marriage, and now through Loving Him Well, there is just so much great information to share with you.
Yes.
And I think we might wrap it up today.
We've been leaving out a ton, so you have got to read this book.
Yes, and I will also tell you, I listened to Sacred Marriage on Audible, and Mr. Gary Thomas, he does read it himself, and his heartbeat comes out in just his reading his own words. It's a wonderful thing to listen to. So if you're a busy mom, just, get the Audible book and listen.
Audible it.
Yes, there we go. Or an audiobook. Maybe it might be available through your public library. You never know.
Sure, absolutely. Well, we began this final wrapping things up last week as we talked about husbands' need, right?
Right, yes.
And we talked about husbands need time. And we talked about husbands' needs for wives to be gentle and patient, even succinct. I always stumble on that word.
Well, it does make sense because just even in giving the illustration in last week's episode, giving the illustration of how all of my emotions were pouring out over my feeling overwhelmed in our schedule, I just used a lot of words and that illustration got carried away. So we do tend as women to have a multitude of words. And the Bible does warn us of that there's not wisdom in using a multitude of words. And so check yourself, especially with your husband and communicating your emotions, that you just bring it all down to brass tacks. Maybe.
Absolutely. And remember, we're trying to give you practical ways to do that. And you husbands that are listening, remember, one of the things we're learning from Gary Thomas is that we can mirror. We don't have to solve, we can mirror. So when she's feeling something, try to feel it. If she's, if she's sharing an emotion, try to acknowledge the emotion, repair it, fix it, solve it later. And sometimes that's wise because if you try to repair it, solve it, fix it on the spot, often you can make a wrong choice because you haven't allowed God to help you to find wisdom about it. So that's good. So we have 2 more to talk, or 3 more here. Three more. What do husbands need?
Emotional rest. So if you're a basket case, maybe you just need to leave your husband alone for a while. Is that what that means?
Well, and this is how Gary said it in his book. He said, to a lady, she's just talking, just connecting. But to us as men, it feels like we're going from 0 to 60 in half a second, and that our engine is about to explode. And maybe on the other side of that, wives think they're pursuing intimacy by forcing talk.
Yes.
But have forgotten that men pursue intimacy, communicative intimacy, by degrees. And I loved that idea in his book.
So do you relate to that?
I do relate to that.
Okay.
And that idea that, emotional is the word barrages.
Yes.
Why do we say that?
Yes.
Those do come at us all the time in our world. If you're on social media, you just have a continual, bombardment of emotional stuff.
True.
There's bad news and somebody's mad at somebody and somebody comments on this and somebody's attacking doctrine or somebody's theology. And there's all these emotional barrages and yet sometimes we bring that into our marriage where we're emotionally pouring things out.
Right.
And the way you handle that and the way I handle that is dramatically opposite.
True.
The world, the world we live in ridicules this idea that husbands and wives are different, men and women are different. But if you don't think that's true, get married.
That's true.
Because it shows up in every marriage we deal with, even the good ones.
Right.
When we're just around people that have good marriages, what do we laugh about? We laugh about our differences.
True. And
we celebrate our differences and how we came to a resolve of our differences. So here's a big one. Men need emotional rest. And how's that, how does that from your perspective?
Well, it can be difficult for me to understand because women like to live in an emotional cloud. I mean, it's always there. We're always feeling something about some issue, whatever it is. Matthew, our son, has been physically struggling. And so I carry that with me. Even if I'm having a good day and I'm not with Matthew, I carry that in my heart. And I always feel that catch in my heart about, Lord, our son is struggling physically. Will you please heal him? And so I don't understand the need for, let's just take a break. Now, I do understand how that we can be, for instance, maybe we've done several couples retreats in a row and we've done a lot of counsel and we've given a lot of ourself in the sessions. I do understand the need for physically, I'm just depleted and I need to go home and get on the couch and read a book and have a cup of tea. But even then, my emotions are in play. So I don't think I quite understand.
Well, I think what he's trying to say here, though, is that as a wife, this is how men are. And so you can either allow that to be a frustration and oh, my word, can't believe this man is this way.
Right.
Or you can allow the Spirit of God to help you to understand that you can't pursue intimacy by forcing a conversation or by forcing emotion.
Right.
I think what he's saying is that basically your husband needs that emotional rest, that time to come to communication by degrees.
Yes.
And it's not that you're, my way is right and your way is wrong, or my way is wrong and your way is right. It's that we are different.
True.
And what he's saying here is that we just need to understand that emotional rest is needed.
So it almost goes back to needing the mental nap and giving you time.
I do think they're connected.
So,
Yes.
For instance, if you've been out there serving the Lord all day, ministry, doing all the things you do, and then you come in and I want to immediately talk about something, even if I'm just saying, well, how was your day? Well, why won't you talk to me? Why won't you share with me your day? Well, it's your need for your emotional rest. I need to put all of the emotions from my day to sleep, basically.
Well, I'm going to go for maybe a different direction than that, because sometimes you will ask me, how was your day? And apparently in my mind, I'm not sure.
You don't know how you feel about your day.
I think the day was fine, but there's still maybe some unresolved just situations or something I haven't. So until I've resolved the situation, until I feel like I've compartmentalized.
Yes, put it in a box.
Until I've arranged all my little boxes in my little perfect world, imperfect world, I don't feel like I can communicate, which is so different. Like it goes back to even when we would talk to our parents. You would talk to your mom 5 minutes. I would say, what'd you guys talk about? You would tell me 30 minutes later what you guys had talked about, because it's not just what was said, it's all the feelings.
Right.
I can talk to mom for 30 minutes and you say, what'd you talk about? And I have no idea at the time.
Right.
Because I come to it by degrees, and it's because that emotional, I can't process my emotions as fast as you do.
Yes.
And I think that's just what he's saying here, is that's how men are wired by God. So we understand that about each other and we give grace to each other in that.
Right. So it just takes time then.
And allow the time.
Allow the time for emotional rest.
And men realize that you don't just go into some, withdrawal where I'm just going to stay away because I can't meet this need. No, you can meet this need. You do it by degrees, so you keep working at it.
Right.
And letting the Lord help you.
Good.
And that's good. Okay?
Yes.
So here's the other thing men need. Husbands need their wives to be understanding of their need to fix it. I like this one, because this has been a funny thing in our marriage at times where, Bethany, I'll be trying to fix it, and so Beth will say, whoa, I don't need you to fix that.
Well,
I need you to listen.
We have learned before we launch into a conversation, before I launch into just, talking about whatever, I have learned to give him a heads up. I just want to share this with you. I don't need you to fix it. Or I may say, you know what, I need some wisdom here from you, or some direction on how to handle a certain situation.
This goes way back to this idea of communication.
Yes.
And one of the ways we have come to an understanding once we've seen our differences. This is how Bethany is. This is how I am.
Right.
She's this way, not because she's my wife. She's this way because she's a woman designed by God. I'm this way, not just because I'm her husband, but I'm this way because God designed me to be this way. Once we understand that, then communication is what connects those two things together.
True.
So I really, and ladies, I can't tell you how much I appreciate it when Bethany says to me, hey, I don't need you to do anything about this. I just need to share this. And I can sit down and listen is the key word there. I can just listen. And I do work at mirroring. I don't do it as well at that, but it is something I'm always trying to do when she's, feeling angst. I can try to feel angst along with her without feeling like I need to, hurt something or break something.
But that is hard for you.
It can be. But at the same time, God, we're believers and we have the Holy Spirit.
Right.
And so the Holy Spirit knows what you're thinking and what you need.
Right.
And so if I'm walking in the Spirit and I'm saying, okay, Lord, I don't help me to respond here right. The Holy Spirit is well able to give me the strength I need to respond to you in the way you need. And he's at the same time able to give you the strength you need if we're seeking him. And that's the whole point of walking in the Spirit.
Absolutely.
Right?
And it helps for women to understand he just wants to fix it. And we have kind of a funny illustration here.
This is a funny illustration.
This is a quote from the book. It says, every man has been told that women want us to listen instead of trying to solve their problems, and that's a fair request. But you need to know that holding back from problem solving is literally painful to a man.
No, this is what's funny.
So I read this quote. I think we were either at lunch or the dinner table or something. My son was still home from college, and I read this to Jacob and David. And I just wrote here in the notes, solemn nods all around. They didn't stop chewing. They didn't comment. You could tell this man, Dr. Gary Thomas, gets me.
This man, we love this man. We're so thankful for this man.
Yes.
And Jacob is more like me.
He is. He's very much like you.
And of course, we're very close as a family, and Josh and Matt are awesome guys as well, and no doubt about that. But Jake often does the things I do, so I even remember noticing that as I'm kind of nodding my head about this, I look over at my Jake, and he's nodding his head in the exact same way. So it was a very funny moment.
It was,
and it is true that we do have given by God this desire to fix, to repair, to protect, to advance, to help solve situations. That's God-given.
Yes.
And so don't allow that to become an issue in your marriage where you're so frustrated that your husband's always trying to fix things. God made him that way. So celebrate that.
And that quote right there was so helpful to me, that it actually can be physically painful for David not to fix it, to hear the emotion of what I'm saying to him and not be able to come to a conclusion, just to absorb the emotion. That's physically painful for him. He wants to fix it.
It's true. It's true. And every man listening knows it's true. And so we're talking about husbands need. This is what husbands need.
Yes.
And here's the last one that he mentioned, and we thought it was worth sharing with you as well and talking about.
This helped me more as a mama, I think, than as a wife because, well, of course, we've been married for 28 and a half years, and you are now in your 50s. And so maybe your curiosity about dangerous things has been tempered, but my boys can scare the living out of me.
So here's what he says. He says, husbands need for wives to be okay with their curiosity. Not that it's okay for men to ever be curious about sin. This is not talking about curious about something on a pornographic website.
Right.
It's not about that. It's about the things that men do that cause wives to shake their heads over their husband's seeming incapability to track what wives perceive as a dangerous decision all the way to its end. And that's always made me smirk when I read those kind of things, because I know that my boys will want to do something, and my thinking is, that's awesome. Go do it.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, go cut that tree down. Go ramp that bike off of that cliff. Go jump off of the railroad truss into the Blackwater River.
Right.
And my wife sees all the potential what ifs, and sometimes I'm amused at how many what ifs you are abilitied to see. Like, you could be run over by a train. Well, it's not like you're not going to hear a train coming, but my wife sees this. Well, what if the train comes and they're stuck out there and afraid to jump, and what if they jump in and there's an alligator with his mouth open and swallows our child, and what if there's a rock somewhere under there that nobody else has ever seen when they've jumped off of there, or the list goes on and on, which I don't, when it comes to myself, sometimes I see things like, we have several friends whose kids have recently jumped out of airplanes and done the parachute jump.
Right. Uh-huh.
And we've got 2 kids in our lives who are like, oh, I can't wait till I can do that. and for me now, I'm not going to do that, because there is a sense in, I can see the end of that. What if that parachute doesn't open?
Well, and you don't like heights either.
I don't like heights.
Right.
That's not my first choice. But so I can see to a certain point, but it is true that wife, don't fuss at your husband about these. Understand this is how God wired him.
Right.
Well,
Dr. Thomas even says men have developed some pretty amazing things because they're able to take risks. Still, it can be hard not to open our mouths as wives and warn them of the danger.
And so there's a balance there probably. Sometimes as a wife, probably you need to hold back a little bit. But as wives, as a husband, listening to your wife's concerns, it's good for you to, this is understanding our differences. This is saying, of course she's going to respond that way. She sees the whole picture.
Right.
And when he laughs at what he considers absurd, don't take that personally. It's that he can't see that, and he can give you 25 reasons why that will absolutely not happen.
That is never going to happen.
and you know what? If it does happen, the fact of the matter is, it would be one of those rare. Oftentimes, those things that you see, with all the what ifs, is a rare
occurrence.
We would say freak accident.
Yes.
And but still, it's how God made you. So.
Right.
So we embrace that.
I always think of the illustration of, I don't know how many of you mamas have gone through this, but you have this little toddler running around, and daddy finally gets home from work and they're playing around on the floor. And then all of a sudden you look and your husband is tossing your child impossibly high in the air. And of course the child loves it because they're tiny. They have no sense of danger here. And daddy, of course, is going to catch them. But
Absolutely.
all you can see is that your child is way up in the air with nothing under them except a man who's going to catch them, hopefully, and they won't fall on the floor. And I always think of that illustration because there would be this concern, this knot that would form in my stomach. Oh my goodness, my baby is up in the air. But of course, David always caught them, and he knew his limitations. Sometimes we don't give our husbands credit to know what their limitations are, but honestly, wives, your husbands are brilliant. They married you. They were brilliant enough to marry you. And so you have to give them credit to know that they do know their limitations. If you just support them and are there for them and only cautiously remind them of, you know what, the child could hurt themselves here. Be careful. The cautious reminders only happen once in a while. If they know that you're behind them, they will accomplish great things. And you will be amazed. You will be like, wow, I had no idea you could do that.
Absolutely. So this is from the section, Husbands Need.
Yes.
And,
what husbands need.
Wives and husbands, learn those, apply those, practice those. We've got to wind this up. Our time's gone. We need to finish this book. The end game, Gary says, is to learn to appreciate how your husband thinks and processes, grow old together, love them. And he said, because older male brains produce less testosterone and another chemical he mentions there. Testosterone. Vasopressin. The ratio of estrogen to testosterone increases, which means hormonally the mature male brain becomes more like the mature female brain. So the idea is some of this you experience if you stay together and work through these things when your marriage is young and you're raising children.
Yes.
As you get older, God's designed us to come to a place to where we're more equal with each other.
Right.
And those older years can become years of greater peace, greater rest, greater joy,
yes,
and greater advancement. And our culture throws things away when it gets tough. Our culture just runs to the divorce court.
Right.
Or tries with somebody else. and in the process robs themselves of this privilege.
Yes.
So you that are married, understand each other, grow together, work together, and realize that the end game is to get old together.
Yes.
When we finally get greater wisdom, great understanding, and can move on. We did not deal with the final section.
Right.
The book talks, Loving Him Well, has part 3 that is entitled Confronting Her Most Common Concerns.
Right.
And we wanted to just mention it. This book is worth your buying and worth your reading, especially if you're going through specific difficult issues.
Right.
He addresses what do you do with a husband who has a major anger issue? What do you do with a husband that won't help at home or just won't even be at home? What do you do with a husband who, how a husband thinks about affection and intimacy? Or a husband who has a problem with porn or who has an internet affair? He even talks about how to handle an issue where the husband is unbelieving or spiritually immature. And wives, if there is a situation that's a specific difficult issue, this book, those final sections can really help give you some wisdom, some direction, and some discernment. Yes,
if you need one of those specific things. But I would say, overall, wives, you may look at this book and say, well, my marriage isn't struggling. I have a wonderful husband and I don't really need to read that book. I would say, yes, you do. David and I have an amazing marriage. I think he's an amazing man. But it was an incredible help to me to read this book and understand where David is coming from and how I can love him better.
Absolutely. And so this is just, this has been a great book. And so I can't wait. I can't wait till next week. And I hope all of you will join us, tell your friends about it.
Yes, please tune in.
Our interview with Gary Thomas about these books was outstanding, and you're going to love the interview. So look forward to it. Join us. It will be a great podcast next week. We're out of time.
Thank you for listening.
These times fly fast, don't they?
Yes, they do.
Thank you so much for listening, for joining us. If we can help you, we're the Youngs. We're available. Reach out. This is Keeping It Young. Thanks for listening.
The Keeping It Young podcast is a Bax 5 Media production.